And welcome back. We're at the IFA, the International Franchise Association show in my hometown of Las Vegas, my recent hometown, I should say. And I have a fabulous guest, as you can imagine. Up next.
That is a fantastic question. And I would say everyone in franchising has had that person come along where you were a little bit hesitant about.
You bring up an interesting point. So many people bring up AI. But then you have to go back to them and say, what problem do you want to solve?
How do we connect what we're calling data to dollars, right? We have all of the data, we can see what's working. Now, how do you connect that to dollars? And then how do you build campaigns around that? So we're using AI for that as well.
This episode sponsored by SEO Samba. Empower your franchise with predictable results and AI-driven marketing.
Not only do we have a view of the strip, we have Heather Nykolaychuk here, present, right here, the president of Budget Blinds. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Lance.
Heather, I am so excited to have you. You were in marketing. You were the chief marketing officer. You've been with Home Franchise Concepts for over 6 years already.
I have been. It's gone by really quickly.
And I guess marketing, would you say marketing is the best background to have now being president of a brand?
Ooh, that's a great question. Of course I would say that yes, marketing is the best background to have. It's so important.
It seems like everybody on the internet, everybody I speak to as a franchise broker, one of the first questions they're going to ask me is, what do they do for me for marketing? Yeah. How do they help me make the phone ring? How do I get deals done? And, in this case, blinds hung. I want customers.
Right. That is the first thing that they're going to ask you. And then I'm going to say back, they're going to ask me, and then I'm going to say back to them that relies heavily on you. We're going to give you all the tools, the resources, the content, but you've got to be out there in your local market and offline and online, being really present. Just because you have entered into franchising does not mean that you do not have to lean in heavily to market.
So you have to do work is what you're telling me?
You have to do work. You have to be gritty.
I thought this was paint by numbers. Well, you still have to paint that.
You do. You actually have to paint.
All right. So have you almost, based on what you just told me, have you ever almost said no to a franchise candidate who later became one of your top performers? Perhaps there was a red flag. And what did that teach you about picking entrepreneurs?
That is a fantastic question. And I would say everyone in franchising has had that person come along where you were a little bit hesitant about. Definitely have had that sort of experience before. And what I have found out, or what I'm constantly surprised by when there is someone like that, is that it is about their mindset. It is about how, I used the word grit before, how gritty that they are, how diligent they are, how they follow the process, how they ask for help. And I do get pleasantly surprised quite often. And it's because a teammate of mine has seen something, because I would have flat out said no. And a teammate has said something, and I have to trust my team and what they're thinking as well. And so I have to say it's the mindset, and I'm pleasantly surprised often.
And I'm glad you said all of that. It does seem that some brands that I found, they see red flags, they bring in some franchisees, and they end up not being successful. So obviously you want to avoid that. I know you're on a roll picking good franchisees.
We are on a roll picking great franchisees, actually. It is a really, really difficult balance. And you have to know what makes your brand successful. You have to understand the profile of the franchisees that have done well, and really make sure that you're able to ask the questions, to really dig in, to make sure that they understand what they're getting into. Yep. And so I think that when you find that balance, it's a great one. And again, people are going to come in and surprise you. But I will tell you, when it is a hard no across my entire team, it is a hard no.
So you might appreciate this. I just had a conversation with a candidate of mine that's looking at franchise brands. and some home services, some senior home care. And he had a little bit of an attitude to him. And it was obviously not something I'm happy to hear, because he might not be a good candidate at all for franchising. And I actually snapped at him and I said, the risk in top brands is not the brand, because there's enough validation. You'll have the opportunity to speak to existing franchisees about their success, and you get to really be honest with yourself, because nobody knows you better, to determine if you're going to be suitable for this brand, then you can do it. And I said, so you're the risk, not the brand.
Right.
And it got really quiet.
Yeah.
I think he's on board now, and he's better at playing. We'll see, but more on that in another game. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think that is interesting. I find that those sorts of candidates are actually the most risky, because they are coming in with preconceived notions already. They already believe that they understand what to do, that they know how to do it. They're the first ones to go, I would say, off the rails, and sometimes the most difficult to get back, and they fall the hardest. And so I would rather have a candidate who wants to ask really good questions, who has a plan, of course, but also is open to learning and understanding that the brand and the business model is what is successful, and understanding that and being willing to maybe let go of some ego in order to do well in that brand, I think is really important. It's those that believe they know best, to me, that are the most risky, and those that I'll say no to.
So Heather, how is AI changing the budget blinds business these days?
I love that question, because AI comes up with our franchisees all of the time. What are you doing about it? How are you engaging with it? Are you just ignoring it? And I would say that there are several ways in which we are addressing it. One of the best ways we've addressed AI is we have built a simple toolkit for our franchisees: how to create content, how to use it for SEO, or how to use it for building marketing campaigns, and how to use it in their sales process. So that's how we are, from a simple perspective, using AI. We're also using it from a smarter marketing perspective. How do we connect what we're calling data to dollars, right? We have all of the data. We can see what's working now. How do you connect that to dollars? And then how do you build campaigns around that? So we're using AI for that as well. My FAC and I just met last week with
FAC would be Franchise Advisory Council.
Yes.
I want to make sure the audience,
Yes.
everybody has a bingo card at home. They're filling in all these acronyms.
Great. Yes, my Franchise Advisory Council. And we were talking about the committees that we wanted to have this year, and someone threw out AI. And I said, well, what problem is that going to solve? And what we started to talk about is really AI is going to be underlying everything that we do. How are we training? How are we taking calls? How are we marketing? And so what they're doing is, instead of saying we're going to have this separate AI committee, we're going to put that as a foundation to how do we improve the other things that we're doing with AI.
You bring up an interesting point. So many people bring up AI, but then you have to go back to them and say, what problem do you want to solve?
Exactly.
It's not just, I want AI.
That's right. It is not. But that's how they come to you.
Yes.
We want AI. Okay.
What would you like help with?
Exactly.
Everything. I don't want to work.
Exactly.
Elon's working on robots. It's
That's
okay.
right.
They're coming. So what's something that Budget Blinds franchisees do better than, let's say, independent mom and pop competitors?
I would say Budget Blinds franchisees or owners, first of all, they are nationally backed, right? So they can walk in with confidence into a customer's home, and they have the broadest product and choices in window coverings. But they bring great expertise in design and consultation, and they are great at it. It's that human touch that you're not getting with the online retailers or the big box retailers. And so they bring in that human element that is not necessarily present across the rest of our industry.
And of course, amazing customer service and attention and follow-up.
Absolutely. Follow-up. Exactly. We just had our convention last week, and it's really amazing the repeat and referral businesses that our franchisees have. And it is because of their service, their customer service, and the fact that they could go in again with confidence, and they know that our warranties are backed by our manufacturers. That's something that not all organizations in our industry can offer.
So Heather, if you had to rebuild Budget Blinds from scratch today, and by the way, the audience needs to hear, they own 8% of the marketplace. Amazing. But if you can rebuild it today, what would you keep the same, and what would you, let's say, radically change?
Okay. This has been on my mind for the last 2.5 years as I have been leading Budget Blinds. And I would say a couple of things I would keep the same. One, as far as the business model of window coverings, it's low overhead, very little inventory, yet gives you a ton of potential to scale. That's what I would keep the same. That is fantastic. I would also keep our owners. They're the heart and they're the soul of this brand, and we've got some amazing owners. What I would change is what we are looking, what we're kind of looking back at. And I would say the diligence in following the model, we weren't always good with that with our franchisees, right? And when it comes to that word compliance, I think that we would have been more diligent in making sure that we followed that. I also think we would do a better job at curating product, especially in today's environment. Consumers have a lot to choose from, and if we can curate that a little bit better, we would. But I would say that infusing also a growth mindset into our franchisees. Back in 32 years ago, the brand was set up to sell territories and maybe not support the franchisees the way that we should have or could have, and instilling that growth mindset and not having franchisees just buy a job. We would have done that. That's how we would have changed it.
Awesome. I love that you recognize that. Yeah. If a franchisee follows the system perfectly, but still struggles, what is usually the real issue behind the scenes here?
I think it's one of two issues. One is they're just not comfortable running a business. Being a manager, hiring staff, building a culture, that is certainly one thing that I've run into, is that they just didn't realize what it would take in order to grow and to scale. I would say the next piece would be fear, is that next level of growth and investing, and so they stay stagnant. And when they stay stagnant, they aren't finding the love that they once found in owning the business. And so when you've got that level of fear, they start to then self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yeah, I've seen over the years so often that the folks that know how to hire, it's okay if you don't know in the beginning, you will figure it out or not. Mm-hmm. And the people that do figure it out do really well and get really comfortable. And the ones that never figure out the hiring, and it's this constant turnover, because I always call it the mirror test and remind people, look in the mirror. The problem might be you.
That's right. Or you start hiring just to hire because you want to scale, but you forget about what your culture is. I've seen that take not such a great turn for franchisees as well. It's really important. And I would say that sometimes the fear of, you could be following the model as an owner-operator, and then you'll want to sell and understanding what your North Star is, but you've never hired. You've only been that person, and you might have built a business that's doing $1 million or more in revenue, but you're it. And so when you go to sell, there's not a lot there.
Yeah. Well, you have been fabulous. Final thoughts for the first-time business owners that have never owned a business before, listening to this and wondering, is Budget Blinds right for me? What is right for me? How do they know? What advice would you give to them?
I would say that you need to meet the team. You need to make sure that you ask all of the questions that you can to make sure that the culture of the franchisor fits with who you are as a person and where the direction of the brand is going resonates with you. I think that you also need to be prepared to work hard. Sure, you can maybe set your own schedule, but you're still building something, and you still need to put that grit, I'll say it again, and that diligence behind building a business. And that's some of the advice that I would give them. But most importantly, make sure that the culture that you're looking for really fits you.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here, Heather.
Thank you, Lance.